Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Mathew Shurka. That's spelled Mathew. There's only one T in that Matthew. Last name is Shurka, Shurka. I live in New York and I came here for the hearing. So I really appreciate your time and having me. I am a conversion therapy survivor. I was in conversion therapy for 5 years, starting at age 16 to 21. I also am a co-founder of the national organization Born Perfect. It's actually a national campaign that was created by the National Center for Lesbian Rights. And I created that campaign realizing the impact that I've experienced by licensed professionals that my parents had, they themselves not understanding what I was about to go through. And so just to clarify, because I know there's been so much testimony today, conversion therapy, which is the term that we're using to describe this attempt to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, it's not an actual practice that has been backed by any research. It's not grounded in any scientific basis. It's not taught at any curriculum at a university or college, and it's not something you can actually that a therapist is taught to do. So when we talk about conversion therapy specific to today's ordinance, it's the attempt that is being done by licensed professionals. And so when I was put into conversion therapy, like any other psychotherapist that anyone may be looking for, my therapist attempted to cure my homosexuality. So I come from a conservative family. I really had a great upbringing. I think that's really important to say because the theory that many conversion therapists use today is that they believe that all people are innately heterosexual and cisgender, and that anything that is any person who's LGBTQ was caused by a childhood trauma of some kind, and you go to therapy, you find out what that trauma is, you heal that trauma, and you will overcome your same-sex attraction. I'm a gay man, and so I had a same-sex attraction, and so they believe that I had some kind of trauma that caused that. And so it's so important for me to say I actually had a really great upbringing. I think my parents did a pretty good job, other than, teenage years that I didn't get along with them on some things. But that was the basis of my therapy. And so I was quickly diagnosed being the youngest of 3 kids. I had 2 older sisters. I was a mom that was a stay-at-home mom. My father worked a lot. I was quickly diagnosed with having too much impressionable relationships with females. And when I started my conversion therapy at age 16, I was not allowed to talk to females at all. And they prescribed this behavior because it's not a medication, but I was told to do this as a way, one, to not take on any effeminate behaviors, and to understand that women are not my peers, but they're my opposite sex, that I will eventually be ready to engage in a romantic relationship and then eventually a sexual relationship, and of course, marriage. Unfortunately, what that included was me not being allowed to speak to my mom and my 2 sisters for 3 years. And my father was very adamant and went along with this therapy and followed the guidelines of a professional. They wanted to see me have a better life, and to them that meant a heterosexual life. So I can go through the list of impacts that it had, but I was a teenager who believed this was working. I wanted to change as a 16-year-old, and wanting to change was because I didn't want to lose my parents' love. I didn't want to lose the community I grew up in. I did not know a single out individual in my high school. I had no one to look up to. So becoming straight was a matter of life or death, and something I took seriously, and I was a quote-unquote good patient who followed all the rules. And so I became more popular with the boys at school. I dated girls, and I really thought I was the definition of a heterosexual teenager who is now becoming 17 or 18. The older I got, the older I became, and I went through my puberty, my adolescence, my attraction for the same sex never got less. It was very clear that I knew what I was attracted to, and who I was always there. I was able to leave conversion therapy at 21. I was estranged from my parents by that time. I dropped out of school, and I had serious depression and suicidality. I had gone to a hospital maybe 6 or 7 times in the emergency room, having panic attacks, heart palpitations, not understanding what the cause was. And why? Well, I say that because I'd go to a hospital where there's other professionals, and never once did it occur to me to say, help, I'm being told that I have to change who I am because I'm already being treated by licensed professionals. And I never knew who to trust. Is it my parents I'm supposed to go to help for? Was it the therapist I was seeing? Was it the hospital that I was in at that moment? And the fact that these so-called conversion therapists use their licensing and their credibility and make a false claim that is harming so many kids around the country is why this practice is so dangerous. So in total, I went through those 5 years. I experienced conversion therapy in 4 different states, all by licensed professionals. In that time, I also experienced one conversion therapy camp, which still runs today nationwide, called Journey into Manhood. When I left conversion therapy, I eventually came out. I helped start Born Perfect. Since we started, 20 states have now passed legislation. 85 cities have passed their own ordinances with bipartisan support. If you look at the 20 states, 9 of the governors who have signed those laws are Republican. This is not a partisan issue. It's a human rights issue. We want to protect families from the correct information, from getting correct information. We want to make sure LGBT kids are protected, and that includes here Lincoln, and I really hope Lincoln can join that list.